The obsidian halls of the Cathara warship Bloodclaw trembled with Queen Sereth's fury. Her scales rippled from crimson to deep violet, a display that would have sent any warrior in her fleet scrambling for cover. But the human standing before her did not flinch. Captain Liana Reed of the Earth vessel Horizon's Dawn kept her hands visible and empty, though her heart hammered against her ribs. Behind her, pressed against her legs with tiny claws gripping the fabric of her uniform, were the two cubs that had started this entire diplomatic nightmare. They are mine. Queen Sereth's voice resonated through the chamber, each word punctuated by the clicking of her mandibles. She stood nearly 9 feet tall, apex predator of a species that had conquered 12 systems before humanity had even mastered interstellar travel. Return my offspring, Captain, or your species will learn why the galaxy fears the Cathara. Liana felt the cubs, Scree and Tala she had named them in her mind, press closer. The smaller one, Tala, made a soft chirping sound that she had learned meant fear. Her hand moved instinctively to rest on the cub's ridged head, and she felt the trembling stop. With respect, Your Majesty, Liana said carefully. They came to me. It had started 3 days ago, when the Horizon's Dawn had responded to a distress beacon in the outer veil. The Cathara ship had been crippled by raiders, life support failing in several sections. Protocol demanded they ignore it. The Cathara were not part of the Galactic Council, and humanity's tentative position among the stars was too fragile to risk on a rescue mission for a hostile species. Liana had ignored protocol. They'd found the cubs in a sealed chamber, alone and terrified, their caretaker dead from vacuum exposure. The rest of the Cathara crew had been fighting the raiders, including Queen Sereth herself. By the time the battle was over and the Bloodclaw had limped to safety, the cubs had been on the human ship for 6 hours, 6 hours that had changed everything. Liana remembered how they had hissed and snapped when she'd first approached, all teeth and claws despite being barely the size of earth dogs. She'd sat down instead of towering over them, made herself small and non-threatening. She'd offered them water, then food synthesized to match Cathara biology according to the galactic database. She'd spoken softly, sang old earth lullabies her grandmother had taught her, and slowly, impossibly, they had crept closer. By hour 3, Scree had fallen asleep with his head in her lap. By hour 5, Tala was purring, a sound Liana hadn't known Cathara could make. When Queen Sereth's second-in-command had arrived to retrieve them, both cubs had hidden behind Liana and refused to leave. Now, in the Queen's throne room, surrounded by warriors whose claws could shred titanium, Liana faced the consequences of that choice. They came to you because they are cubs, Queen Sereth snarled, descending from her dais with lethal grace. Cubs are foolish. They do not understand the weakness of your kind, the softness. You are prey species playing at being equals. My children belong with their own. Prey species. Liana repeated the words quietly, and something ancient stirred in her chest. Something that remembered when humanity had huddled in caves while saber-toothed tigers prowled outside. Something that remembered climbing down from the trees and picking up stones and sticks and refusing to be prey anymore. Your Majesty, may I tell you what happened during those 6 hours? Queen Sereth's tail lashed, but she gestured for Liana to continue. Your children were traumatized. They'd watched their caretaker die. They were cold, hungry, alone in the dark. They should have been feral with terror. Liana's voice remained steady. I didn't use technology to calm them. I didn't drug them or restrain them. I simply sat with them. I kept them warm. I stayed awake so they could sleep safely. Because that's what we do, what you do. The Queen's laugh was sharp as broken glass. Humans don't survive because we're the strongest or fastest or most deadly, Your Majesty. We survive because we care for the vulnerable. Because a human who sees a frightened child, any species, can't just walk away. Liana felt Tala's small claws tighten on her leg. Your cubs ran to me because they recognized something they needed. Not a warrior, not a predator, a protector. You dare lecture me on protecting my own offspring? No, Your Majesty. I'm trying to explain why they won't come when you call. Liana took a breath. You've taught them to be fierce, to be strong, to be Cathara. But right now they're scared, and scared children don't need fierceness. They need someone who'll hold them in the dark. The throne room fell silent except for the soft chirping of the cubs. Queen Sereth stared at the human. and Liana could see the conflict in those alien eyes. Pride warring with something deeper, something maternal that transcended species. You would return them? The queen asked finally, her voice softer. Of course. They're your children, but... Liana knelt down, bringing herself eye level with Scree and Tala. They should go because they're ready, not because they're ordered. She spoke gently to the cubs in their own language, phrases she'd learned from the database, probably mangled by her human tongue. Your mother is here. She's safe. She's been fighting to get back to you. She loves you. Scree's head lifted, ears swiveling toward Queen Sareth. Tala chirped uncertainly. It's okay to be brave now, Liana whispered. She'll keep you safe. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Scree took one tentative step forward. Then another. Tala followed, and suddenly both cubs were racing across the floor, not to their mother, but in a path that would take them between both women. They reached Queen Sareth first, rubbing against her legs with joyful chirps. But then they ran back to Liana, circling her once before returning to their mother. Back and forth, bridging the gap between predator and prey, between species that had never been allies. Queen Sareth watched this display, her scales shifting through colors Liana couldn't interpret. Then slowly, deliberately, the massive alien queen lowered herself to the floor and extended one clawed hand toward the human. You have given me back my children, Captain Reed, and perhaps... The queen's mandibles clicked in what might have been a smile. You have taught this old predator something about strength. Liana took the offered hand, and the cubs celebrated by climbing over both of them, chirping and purring and completely oblivious to the fact that they had just changed the course of galactic history. Because humanity had never been the strongest species to reach the stars, they had simply been the kindest. And sometimes in a galaxy full of predators, that made all the difference.